Another minor bug that we have in our code is that in scatter mode we are not actually setting the current mode, so that will cause it not to go out of scatter mode due to our original logic. So what we can do is we can just call the setter for this, and then we can call AI move to. So copy this over, and this should be good enough. Now if I go ahead and display, and if I collide into any one of the ghosts, now after 7 seconds it should technically stop being in scatter mode, and it should technically come back into chase mode or whatever. Alright, so now we can take a look, and now it's game over. So if we actually press play, there is one problem which you would probably notice. So if you would just notice over here, so let my points increase beyond 1000, you'll get to know. So if I get to 1000 points, let's say, so let me get there real quick. So I've gone there, I'm above 100,000 points, and as you see it does not render the comma. It's a problem with the format, but I mean the font, but nonetheless we can go ahead and use this converter where use grouping can be disabled. So we can go ahead and do that, and that's going to fix our issues pretty much. So now if I go ahead and press play and somehow get 1000 points, so let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so go ahead and get 1000 points. So I have 630 now. So anytime now. So as you see, we are displaying the score correctly. Okay, so now let's go ahead and display the level over here itself. So what we can do is we can hit shift enter, and we can say level, and we can go ahead and grab the level. Now of course the level is not going to go in thousands, so we'll not really bother too much about this. So let's go ahead and drag the level as well. So the level is going to be the one from the game mode. So what we can do is on construct, we can store the game mode reference. So get game mode, we can cast it to Pacman game mode, and we can store a reference. So we can say game mode ref. Alright, and from this reference we can go ahead and get the current level. Oops, get level, so the variable. Alright, let's go ahead and press play. So as you see, we are in level 1. So this is exactly what we wanted. So there are actually rules for the duration of the frightened mode, so it won't remain in frightened mode indefinitely. So what we can do is we can actually linear interpolate the time so that we can kind of get a simulation of that. Now right now if you just head into frightened mode, they'll always keep moving randomly, so that is not something that you want. So this is not what we really expect. So this is not the frightened mode that we require. So what we have to do actually is we have to actually change our code such that it actually reflects the frightened mode expiring. So in this do once over here, this is not going to happen in frightened mode. So this, once we actually cast to BP ghost, so we can go ahead and switch on the mode that is there. So if any one of the ghosts are in frightened mode, so all the others will also be in frightened mode. So let's just get Inky or Blinky for example, and let's say we get the mode. So let's say we get the current mode. Now what we can do is we can perform a switch as usual. So we can go ahead and switch on this enum, and when we switch, except frightened mode, in all other modes this is okay. Freeze as well, nothing is supposed to happen. In frightened mode however, what is supposed to happen is not this. So the round is not supposed to get ended. Rather, if we are in frightened mode, we should handle the logic probably in the ghosts themselves. So in frightened mode, if you would notice, so not sure where it is, but basically they will run to their house basically in order to make the ghosts go home when eaten by Pacman in frightened mode. What we can do is we can store the location on begin play, so we can get actor transform over here, and we can just promote this to a variable. So we'll just promote this to a variable, and this is basically going to be the spawn location. So this will be contained in each of the ghosts. And what we'll do is in frightened mode, let's say we are eaten. So what we can do is we can add a hit event or something over here. So event hit. So event hit. So if we are hit by Pacman, now this means that the ghost is eaten. What we can do is we can check the current mode. If we are in frightened mode, what we'll have to do is we'll have to go home. So we'll call AI move to, and if there's any visual change we have to make, we can do that as well, but for now we'll leave it as is. So this is going to be the target location, and the pawn is going to be self, of course. So this is something that we can do. Alright, so on success we can again call on mode change, and it's going to be frightened. So on mode change, and this time it's going to be frightened. Once again, we do also want to make sure that we are still in frightened mode, just as a safety check. It will be, otherwise this is going to get aborted. But nonetheless, if it's not, whatever it is, whether it's a success or a failure, so if it is in frightened mode, we'll switch back to frightened mode basically. So we'll trigger that random selection of locations. So that is something we can do. So now if I were to go ahead and press play, so I have this over here, so it's going randomly. So if I go ahead and eat this, it's going to try to run back to its spawn location, and then it's going to again continue being in frightened mode. Of course, we'll have to disable the frightened mode, so it can't stay indefinitely. So if I hit the ghosts when they are in frightened mode, so let's say we are in frightened mode when we actually hit the ghost. So under ghost, if we are in frightened mode, under our game mode, we can go ahead and set a timer once again. So set a timer by function name, and basically what we'll do is we'll go ahead and head back into chase mode. So if you see call on scatter complete, so wherever that is, so I guess it's somewhere over here. So call on scatter complete, it should be here. So let's go ahead and just search that. So call on scatter complete. So if the mode is scatter, then we will go to chase. So now what we can do is we can create another custom event. So call on frightened complete, and again we can do the same exact check, and we can replicate this logic over here. And if the mode is equal to frightened, we'll head back into chase mode basically. So we can call this for the timer, and the duration is what we have to calculate. Let's just clean up our logic a little bit. So we'll move this aside, and over here we can go ahead and calculate the time it takes. So if we actually refer to this table which I was referring at that time, it's 6 seconds on level 1. So let's go ahead and type in linear interpolate, and initially A is going to be 6 and B is going to be 0. So this is what we can do. So we have to interpolate from 0 to 21, so that will be the alpha. So what we can do is we can take the level number, we can convert it to a float. Once we have converted this to a float, what we can do is we can divide this by 21. So we can divide this by 21. So let's say we are in level 21, alpha is going to be 1. If we are in level 1, alpha is going to be very close to 0, so that will be almost 6. And what we can do is we can clamp this value from 0 to 1. Alright, so now after 6 seconds the frightened mode should in fact complete. So we can just go ahead and print strings over here. So we can say finished frightened mode, ending frightened mode. Alright, now if I compile this and hit play, and if I just head in and grab one of these pellets, so after about 6 seconds we should end the frightened mode, and now Blinky should start chasing us again. Now another thing to note is the speed of the Pacman goes. So what we can do is when we enter frightened mode, we can change the speed. So when we enter frightened mode, after all these, so leaving aside all these, we can get access to our character movement, and we can set max walk speed. We can adjust this value to be equal to the value that we want. So let's go ahead and take a look. So basically it'll be 50, 55 or 60. So initially it's going to be 50 for level 1. So do we have a game mode ref? Yes, we do. So what we can do is we can go ahead and create a function and say update speed for frightened mode, and we can switch on the level number. So get the level. Alright, and then we can go ahead and branch the various conditions. So we have a compare macro which we can make use of. So if the level is less than or equal to 1, so that is basically the first level, so we can use double equals for this. So if the level number equals 1, in this case what we are going to do is we are going to set the max walk speed to be 50% of Pacman speed. So we have a reference over here to Pacman using the game mode. So we can get Pacman ref, and using this Pacman ref, what we can do is we can set the max walk speed to get max walk speed. So get max walk speed. So get max speed is probably the closest one. So let's go ahead and get that. Depends on the movement mode. You'll always be in walking mode, so that's totally fine. We can actually collapse this whole thing into a function. So get Pacman speed. Let's say we call it that, and we can go ahead and return this. Alright, and over here we can just execute this, and this will yield us our result under the event graph. And now we can grab that get Pacman speed and update the speed over here. So we can say get Pacman speed, divide it by 2. So we can grab it here and we can just store a reference to it. So we'll make it a pure function, get Pacman speed, promote to variable, and we'll say rather local variable. So let's undo that. So promote to local variable, and let's say Pacman speed. We can store this, and what we can do from here is we can take the Pacman speed variable and divide this by 2, or we can say into 0.5. So this will be 50%. Alright, and now over here for levels 2 to 4, so what we can do, if this is false, so we'll check if you are between 2 to 4. So if you are between 2 and 4, so it will be under these two conditions. We'll go ahead and run this logic, and we'll set this up, and this will be 0.55, and if it is greater than, we'll again run this comparison. So again the input is going to remain the same. If it is in fact greater than 21, so up to 20 is what we have to compare. So if it is up to 20, so if it is less than or equal to 20, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and update the max walk speed to be 60% of Pacman speed. If not, what we'll do is we'll set it to 100%. So 100%. So again, this is because there is no frightened mode basically. Alright, so this should in theory update the speed. So under frightened mode, we can go ahead and update speed for frightened mode. Alright, if it is any of the other modes, what we'd have to do is we'd have to reset the speed. So in case we are heading into chase mode, what we'll have to do is we'll have to update the speed. So we can set max walk speed to be equal to 100% of Pacman speed or whatever the speed is. So we'll need to get the chase mode speed, so chase or scattered mode speed. So we can say update speed for chase or scatter, and we can pretty much copy this same logic here because the level ranges are the same. So we can copy this whole thing, and what we can do is we can grab this in here, we can paste this up, and we can right click on this and create a local variable. So we have access to Pacman speed, and now over here we'll change the values. So where it was 50, it's supposed to be 75, so not 0.75. The reason we are doing relative values is so that as it changes, it should not affect our logic. That's basically the reason why we are doing it. So let's say we decide to change Pacman speed, it should not affect our logic. Oh, also a small flaw over here. We'll go ahead and change that. So it's 95. So I assume that even over here we should probably make it 95. So, or rather we should not modify the speed is what we should do. And even in frightened mode over here, it'll probably never enter this, but nonetheless we should not modify the speed. So let's go ahead and take a look. Update speed for frightened mode, and when we enter scatter mode or something, we'll update the speed over here as well. And even over here, we'll just go ahead and update the speed. So now, if you were to go ahead and press play. So now, these ghosts seem to be going at a very slow rate. I mean, of course, Pacman speed itself is very slow. But anyways, this seems about right for the speed.